Okay, welcome everyone. We are going to get started. So I am so happy to help you today with getting started on Quill. We also just wanted to begin the session by saying that as former teachers, we can't imagine how difficult this time must be for you and for your students. And we just want to express our gratitude for the hard work that you're doing. And a special shout out to those teachers out there who are also moms. As one myself, I know that these are particularly challenging times. So thank you. We hope that Quill can help serve you and your students, whether remotely or eventually one day when we're back in the classroom. So to introduce myself, I'm Sherry there on the right, and I'm a senior instructional coach at Quill, as is Shannon, who you also see. And Shannon will be womaning our chat and Q&A and helping out a bit in the Q&As. A little background on me. I taught high school at a public school in the Bronx, New York for about 8 years, taught English. And after that, I was a faculty member and director of certification at the Writing Revolution. Okay, let's get started. So we'd like to start right away by showing you where to go if you have specific support questions or implementation questions. So you have several options. We are holding live drop-in sessions all throughout the month of May. So if you go to our website and look at the very top for a blue heading, you can join those live webinars when they're going on, and they're occurring on Mondays, Tuesdays, and Thursdays, again throughout the month of May from 12 to 1 Eastern Time. You can also look for this little icon, and that will be on any of our pages on the website in the bottom right corner. And if you click that icon, you can ask a question to a support specialist. You might not get an answer immediately, but you should get an answer within a day or so. And then you can also email support. So support at Quill.org. I just realized I think that's a typo. Oh, no, I'm sorry. That's the webpage, support.quill.org. The email is here, support@quill.org. And definitely reach out, especially if you have any real technical issues, issues with merging classes, things like that, and someone will get back to you. And lastly, please do connect with us on social media, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. And we're also, we'd love to see what you're doing in your class or online with your class. And you can use the hashtag Quill in the classroom to tag any of that. And I see all your information coming in the chat, and welcome to all of you. It sounds like we've got people from all over the country. So wonderful to, as Shannon said, wonderful to meet you. Okay. So to give you a little overview of what we're gonna do today, you can see our agenda here. We're starting with the goals. We'll go through creating classes. We'll spend a lot of time walking you through Quill's 5 tools, and then how to assign a diagnostic and activities, and we will have time at the end for Q&A. So our goals align to that overview. Again, you're gonna know how to set up your classes, how to roster them. You're going to learn about our 5 tools and how to use them, and you're gonna learn how to search Quill's library of activities and assign activities. Some Zoom norms. Please use the Q&A button at the bottom of your screen for questions, and feel free to type questions in there during the presentation, because we'll be stopping throughout to look at those questions and answer them, as well as answering whatever's left over in that open Q&A at the end. But please do try to use that Q&A button instead of the chat if you have questions about Quill during the presentation. The chat you can use for any urgent Zoom issues or technical issues. If you can't hear us, that would definitely go in the chat. And lastly, we'll be using some polls, so stay tuned. We have our first poll coming up right now. Okay, so we are going to launch this poll. Okay. And you should see that poll now, and I'll give you some time to answer. We're asking, which topic of today's presentation would you like us to devote the most time to? Your choices are creating classes, learning about our tools, assigning the diagnostic, creating activity packs, or just that open Q&A time. Okay, just a little bit more time here. Okay, and I'll share those results. So we have a definite agreement that we are most interested in learning about Quill's tools, and I will make sure to spend a lot of time there. And also interested, secondly, in creating activity packs. We'll definitely show you that as well. And just if we could pause here also, at the bottom of your screen, you have a little raise hand feature. If we could just test this out, if you could raise your hand if you teach an AP, an advanced placement class. I would love to know how many teachers we have here teaching advanced placement. And I'll show you why near the end of our presentation. Okay, and Shannon, were you able to capture all those hands for us? Uh-oh, we can't hear you. Okay, 2. Okay, good to know. And we will lower those. Okay. Moving on. Thank you so much, everyone. So we're going to begin by talking about how to create classes in Quill. And you have 2 options for creating classes. You can create classes manually, or you can create them through Google Classroom or Clever. And I'm going to show you those. So first of all, creating them manually. And for this, and throughout the presentation, I'm going to be going to the website to show you a lot of this stuff live. We do have these videos here in case, unfortunately, the internet doesn't cooperate, but we will do it live if we can. So when you log into your account, you're going to see this. This is your teacher dashboard. And to create an account, to create classes, I'm sorry, you're going to go to home, classes. And right here, you'll see this green button, create a class. You're going to give your class a name. So I might name mine 6th period ELA. You're going to select a grade. Please note that this grade is really just for Quill's information. It doesn't affect what activities you're able to see or assign. It doesn't limit you in any way. So don't worry too much about that. And then you might want to note the class code here. You might need that depending on the route you go in creating classes. So you'll note that there. It's going to be 2 words with a hyphen. And then you're going to hit create class next. At this point, you have 2 choices. You can have students create their own accounts, or you can create accounts for your students. And I'll walk you through both of these. So let's say you want to have students create their own accounts. You're going to click there, and you're going to get this class code link that you can copy to your dashboard and then share that with your students. And all your students will do is they'll click that link. When they click that link, they'll be prompted to create their own username and password for Quill. And by using that link, students can automatically join your class. Going forward after that, when they want to log into Quill, they'll use that username and password that they created. So that's that option. Now I'm going to go back. What if you want to create accounts for your students? This is a good option if you have younger students and you want to keep things simpler for them. So click here, and you're going to manually enter the names of your students. So student last name, and you're going to click add. Enter each of the names of your students, and Quill is going to automatically generate a username and a password for that student. The password will default to their last name. Enter those all in, and then click next. And you're going to get a downloadable PDF of student logins and setup instructions. So you can download that. I'll show you what that looks like. And then you can share that with students and with parents, easy to email if you need to do that remotely, and has all the information there. So that's your second option if you're creating classes manually. You also have the option of importing classes from Google Classroom if you're a Google Classroom user. And you'll just click that button here and link your account to Google Classroom. You want to click this check here and link account. I'm not going to go through it here because I don't actually have this link to my Google Classroom, but the next thing you'll see is you'll get the chance to choose your classes in Google Classroom that you want to link. And you'll also have the option, it'll actually be pre-selected for you, but you have the option to unselect it, to have Quill assignments post as announcements in Google Classroom, in your Google Classroom stream. So again, that'll default be checked so that your students will always see an announcement about Google, in Google about Quill assignments. If you don't want to crowd your Google Classroom stream with too many announcements, you might want to uncheck that. And then you just want to make sure that students know to log on to Quill to see what assignments you have assigned to them. And I'm going to pause here for any questions about setting up classes. And again, a reminder, please try and type your questions into that Q&A box. And we will look at answering some of them now. We might save some of them for later. Yeah, pause there. So I do see one question about whether Quill partners with I don't know how to say it, Schoology. Unfortunately, we don't have plans for that right now, but we've certainly heard that request from other teachers and let our team know about that. We do link with Clever, and if you're interested in that, we can show you at the end how to set up a class through Clever. It's a little bit different. Okay, so we do have some questions here. So Alicia, I'll answer your question about Google Classroom. So if you have it set to announcements, does it list each student's assignment? I'm pretty sure the answer is no. I don't know, Shannon, if you want to add anything to that.
Yes. Can you hear me?
Yes, now we can.
Okay, great. Sorry about that. Yes, so if you have it set to announcements, it'll list each student's assignment, and then that's individual per student. So if you have different students getting different assignments, their Google Stream will be individualized for them personally.
Thank you so much, Shannon. Okay.
And then Jim just had a question too, Sherry, about is there a category for adult education? And we got this morning, hence why I'm ready to answer it. So Jim, the highest grade level that you can select is 12th grade. The grade levels are there just for internal Quill knowledge. They do not limit you in any way in terms of assigning activities. So you could go ahead and choose 12th grade, which is the highest grade, and then know that you have the ability to do anything from there.
And Jim, we know that, I mean, I taught high school and AP literature, and I know that even students in 12th grade and beyond often need help, unfortunately, with their sentence work. So certainly this is a great tool to use with college students or with adults as well. Okay, so we're going to carry on, and I'll pause again for questions in a little bit. So next, we'd like to show you Quill's 5 learning tools. Let me get my slides back up here. And we have 5 learning tools: Quill Grammar, Quill Connect, Quill Proofreader, Quill Lessons, and Quill Diagnostics. And you might want to note these little icons here. So the puzzle piece for grammar, the bullseye for Connect. Those can be helpful just when you're navigating the website if you know those icons. And the first tool we're going to walk through today is Quill Grammar. So Quill Grammar has hundreds of activities that are going to help your students practice basic grammar skills, comma placement, subject-verb agreement, etc. And I think the best way to see it is to see it live. So we're going to go now to the website and practice a Quill Grammar activity. And right now you are seeing exactly what your students would see. You also have the ability as a teacher to preview any activity, just like I'm doing right now in Quill, and I'll show you how to do that later. But right now, just to introduce you to the tool. So when students click into the activity, they're going to see this page first. Welcome to Quill Grammar. Follow the instructions for each prompt. Use the example as a guide. Type your sentence into the box, and remember to use correct spelling, capitalization, and punctuation. And we intentionally try to keep our directions really simple and clear for students. They're going to click Begin. And notice at the top here, they're going to get a little review of the rule that they're practicing. So this activity is about capitalization. They're going to be told we capitalize names of people with some examples. They're going to be given a model. So you see what will they be seeing right here, and what are they expected to write? And that has the correct capitalization. And that will be true for all grammar activities, that it will start with this little rule and the little model. And then I've given my first of 12 questions. Notice here, the tool will tell me my progress. So I'm on the first of 12 questions. And these activities usually are meant to take about 10 minutes per activity. So I have Stacy and her mom, Jenna, are donating clothes, and I need to rewrite the sentence, capitalizing appropriate words as necessary. So let's say I missed that first one. Maybe I capitalized mom by accident, or I think mom should be capitalized, and I forget my period. So then I'm going to click Get Feedback. Try again. Remember to capitalize people's names. So I'm instantly going to get feedback from the program about my writing. Okay, names. Stacy, that's a name. I'm going to capitalize that. Oh, and Jenna, I forgot that too. Let's see what we have now. Try again. Mom is not being used as a name, so it should not be capitalized. Okay. So I can fix that. I'm going to hit get feedback again. Oh, and now the program is catching my missing punctuation. So I'm going to add that. And let's see if I've made it. Yes, well done. That is the correct answer. And so as you see, as your students work through this, they are going to be getting very specific targeted feedback to help them improve their sentences. And the same will go for the next questions. Okay, so back to here. I'm going to pause here for any questions specifically about Quill grammar. So go ahead and click that Q&A button if you have any specific questions about the Quill grammar tool. Just give it a little bit more time. Any questions about Quill grammar? Okay, we'll move on then. And if you do have a question that comes up later, feel free to always add it to the Q&A. Oh, we do have one from Lori. Great question. So Lori's asking, can the level of difficulty be adjusted? So Lori, the answer is yes. We have activities at different levels. You can't adjust the level of a particular activity, but we do have activities at different levels. And I will remember, and Shannon, you'll remind me if I forget, to show you where you can see that in our library. Great question. And then we also have a question from Erica. Does the 10-minute lesson focus on one skill or multiple skills? Another great question. So as you can see, this one focused on capitalization. Each of the activities in Quill Grammar do focus on a particular skill. They're pretty narrow. There are, I believe, actually, Shannon, maybe help me out here. Are there some grammar activities that are more review-like that have more than one skill mixed in? Oh, we can't hear you. Now we can hear you.
Okay, sorry about that. You see that more in the connect activities, which you're about to show. The grammar activities do tend to be very focused on one particular skill at a time. And I know, Sherry, when you show the activity library later on, you'll be able to see how you can search for different concepts.
Exactly. Yes, we will show you that. Thank you. Okay. I'm going to move on for now. And again, keep just popping those questions into the Q&A. If we don't get to them during, we will get to them at the end in the final Q&A. So the next tool that Shannon just mentioned, we want to show you is Quill Connect. And this is a tool that's going to help your students write complex, well-structured sentences, and it uses the evidence-based strategy of sentence combining. So sentence combining is where students are given two or more kernels, very simple sentences, and they're asked to combine them. Sometimes we're giving them instruction about how to combine them using a specific concept. So let's try one of those. We're going to go to the website. And we have our first Quill Connect activity. Again, we have these very simple, direct instructions. Notice that students are told they can add or remove words and that there is more than one correct answer. Let's hit begin. And again, we have this rules page that's going to review the rule that we're focusing on, as well as this time we have a few different models because we're talking about two different conjunctions. So we have an example with but, an example with so, and another example with but. And also some instruction about how to punctuate. So let's begin. Again, we have that little tracker here. We have 8 questions in this. And we have our first prompt. Frida Kahlo lived in Mexico. She is famous all over the world. And then we're given these 2 joining words, but and so. And we do use the phrase joining words instead of conjunctions because we find that it's friendlier for students. And we're told to combine the sentences into one sentence and use one of the joining words. So as the student, I'm going to have to choose which one I want to use. So Frida, let's see, make a little capitalization mistake here. Frida Kahlo lived in Mexico, and I'm going to say, but she is famous all over the world. And I'm going to ask for feedback here. Good work. Now look at the hint and update your punctuation. So notice at the bottom here, your students will be provided hints to help guide them, and we'll basically see a model, a reminder of the rule and a model. Connect 2 complete sentences with a comma and one of these words, and, or, but, and so. So I am cold, I will wear a sweater. I need to add a comma before the so. Now I'm going to look at my sentence. Frida Kahlo lived in Mexico. Oh, I need a comma before my but, just like that hint reminded me. Recheck my work. Now I'm going to be asked to check my capitalization. Oh, I forgot to capitalize that proper noun and this other proper noun. Recheck my work. That's a strong sentence. Oh, you know what's funny? I was thinking it wasn't a but it is a but. She lived in Mexico, but she's famous everywhere. For some reason, I was thinking it was so. So I got that correct. And then when your students click next, they'll also see, and this is whether they get the sentence correct or not, they will always end by seeing the most popular strong answers. So this is really nice because you know that your students are not leaving the activity unsure of what the correct answers could be. And they'll see those listed 1, 2, 3, the most popular strong answers. It's also a nice reminder to students that there's more than one correct way to combine sentences. And they'll also have at the bottom what they wrote as their final answer for that sentence. And then they would move on to the next sentence. So I'm going to pause here again for any questions about Quill Connect. Again, you just want to click that Q&A button. Any questions specifically about Quill Connect? Okay, so Jim is asking a great question about what happens if you keep getting it incorrect. So Quill Connect students have 5 tries, 5 chances to get it correct. And after that point, if they still haven't gotten it correct, they will be presented with a multiple choice question. So they'll basically be given which of these sentences is the strongest based on that sentence that they were given. And then after that, they will also be shown those strong answers. So all students, whether they get it correct right away, don't get it correct right away, or don't get it correct at all, will always be shown those strong answers at the end. But yeah, they have 5 tries to get it right before that multiple choice comes out. Any other questions specifically about Quill Connect? Okay, I think we will keep moving then. So the next tool we're going to show you is Quill Proofreader, which teaches students editing skills by having them proofread passages. So again, here we are going to go to a live activity. And when they click in, it will say, welcome to Quill Proofreader, and explain to them that they're going to read the passage, correct any grammar and punctuation errors that they find, review by getting feedback on each correction, and then improve by working on a follow-up activity that focuses on some of the errors that they're making. So let's see what that's like. So here they have a short passage about the Glacier National Park. They're told to proofread the passage and select the correct words. So here, this is a lower level passage, so the mistakes are underlined. In the more advanced passages, the mistakes will not be underlined. The students will have to find them themselves. The other thing you might notice in a more advanced proofreader passage is that they might not have a choice like they do here. They'll just have the mistake. And so they'll just have to find the mistake and come up with the correct correction. So what they would do here is go in and make these corrections. So Glacier National Park is, let's get some of these wrong. Glacier became a national park. Get this one right. Okay, and when your students, have made their corrections, they're going to click Get Feedback, and they're going to be told how many errors that they found, and then they're going to get a review. So this one was incorrect, etc., and it's going to walk them through. And depending on what skill is being tested, they also might get a little explanation of which skill they're focusing on. Since this is just A and N, it's pretty self-explanatory here. And then when they finish, they'll be told that's the end of this passage. Now let's do some follow-up practice. And it's going to take them to a Quill grammar activity focused on the issue that they were working on in that activity. And Nancy, I see your question. If they don't make the question, what happens if they don't make corrections on all of them? I'm pretty sure they won't be able to click Get Feedback until they have made all of the corrections. So they have to finish. You're very welcome, Nancy. Okay. I will pause here a brief moment for any questions about Quill grammar activities. I'm sorry, not Quill grammar, Quill proofreader. Quill proofreader. Okay, so Jim asking a question about how do you choose the skill. Again, I think when we get to the library of activities, once you have a sense of what these 5 tools are, we can talk more about choosing the skill, but that's a great question. And Shannon, remind me to come back to that if I don't. So Alicia's asking if the students find all of the corrections 100%, do they get a leveled grammar exercise? Shannon, can you say a bit more about the grammar exercise that they might be assigned if they get everything correct?
I just want to make sure I'm giving.
You're back.
Sorry, everybody. That's a great question, Alicia. I just want to double check on that for you and make sure I'm giving you the 100% right answer. So I'm going to check on that and get back to everybody.
Awesome, thank you. Oh, okay. And just a little bit more about Proofreader, I meant to say, this is a great activity to include for some extra proofreading practice while students are composing a separate writing piece for class. There are over 200 different passages to choose from, and a lot of them have a specific focus that you can choose to align with the skills that you're focusing on in class. So for example, the one that we just did, working on articles and A and N, if that's something that you've been working on, you might choose that passage. Okay. So lastly, in terms of the tools second to last is Quill Lessons, which is a very exciting tool. And I don't know why we're not clicking. Here we go. Quill has more than 25 teacher-led lessons that are available for you to use interactively with your full class or with small groups. These lessons are really useful for teaching a new concept before independent activity practice, but they can also be great to use as remediation for a group of students that might be struggling with a particular concept. So let's take a look at a Quill lesson. So we have one opened up here, and this is what it looks like on the teacher end. On the left here, you see all the slides, and notice it says 0 students viewing. These lessons are meant to be done live with students. They can be done remotely, and we'll talk more about that in a little bit. But when I say live, I mean if it's a remote lesson, your students would need to be logged in at the same time as you. If you're in person, the students obviously would be in the room with you. And when your students log on, you're going to see here how many students are online. And this is what the students will see, these slides that you see on the left here that you can scroll through. Some other things to note. So notice the very first slide will have the objective for the lesson, an outline or an agenda of the lesson, an optional follow-up activity. It'll show you the standards that it aligns to, and some prerequisites, what you want to make sure your students know before they do this lesson. I'm not going to walk you through the whole lesson here. We do have a lot more information about Quill lessons that we can share in the chat, but a few things I want to highlight for you. So I want to show you slide, where is it? 6. So notice slide 6 says teacher model. All of our lessons have a slide, or sometimes more than one, where there is a teacher model. And notice that it gives you the exact language, which of course you're welcome to use or tweak, but it is there for you, for how to model something for your students. And in this case, reading the sentences and modeling how to combine sentences using the adverb gracefully. So all of the language is there, as well as your anticipated student response for questions that you might ask, etc. And then you can also type out as you do this. You can type your model. So the falcon soars grace. And your students would see you as you're typing that and as you're speaking out, speaking through that model. The other slide I want to highlight for you is the individual practice slides. So this is where students are asked to now try what you have modeled for them. So say, now try combining sentences for yourself. And what's really neat here is that as your students answer, you're going to see popping up their answers, and you can choose to display some of their answers anonymously for the class to have a little discussion about what you're seeing in their answers. And notice here it says lead a discussion, and it even gives you some questions that you might want to use. Where does the word suddenly need to go in this sentence? What is sudden describing? Some questions that might help you in giving feedback to students on their work. But I always thought this was the neatest part of Quill Lessons, is that you can pull up students' responses right there and then and discuss them. Some other features about Quill Lessons I'll just highlight for you. These icons at the top are useful. This one allows you to make a copy. So sometimes people wonder if they can adjust a Quill lesson. The answer is yes, you would make a copy and then you can customize it. This one allows you to download it if you want a PDF or you want to be able to print this out. The flag here is a neat feature. So as you go through the lesson, if you notice that a particular student keeps making a certain mistake, you can flag that student. And then at the end of the lesson, you'll get some recommendations for activities to assign that student that might help them with their what they're struggling with. This is the launch projector button, which will let you project the lesson onto one screen and have you see the lesson plan on another screen if you're using a smart board or something like that. This is a really nice button. This allows you to put watch teacher on, and what will happen is on the students' screens, it will go blank and it will say watch your teacher right now. So if you're trying to do something where you want to make sure that you have their attention, it's a great way to make sure they're not fiddling around on whatever slide was there or typing in a sentence. They're going to stop and look at the teacher at the front of the room. And then lastly, this allows you to save and exit your lesson. You can also open student view to see what things look like from the student perspective, which can be helpful when preparing one of these lessons. So I'll pause here in case anyone has any questions about Quill Lessons. Again, you can click that Q&A.
And just to jump in and point everybody to the chat, I also just linked to a video that we've created that shows you Quill Lessons live and gives you tips on how to run Quill Lessons remotely. So that could be really helpful if you're looking to try this out.
Thank you, Shannon. Just give a little bit more time. Any questions about Quill Lessons? Okay, so Dawn is asking, is there an option to not be live with the class, but assign the section as a review? So Dawn, we get this question a lot, and it's a great one. Quill Lessons really, as I said, were designed to be done live. However, something that we've been seeing teachers do, we actually just recently found one on YouTube that we thought was fantastic, is what some teachers are doing is they go to that first page. Let's see if I can go back. They'll go to a page of one of our activities and they'll record themselves. They'll do like a screencast of themselves reading through the rule and the model and even maybe completing one or two of the questions for their students, record that and then share that with their students. And you could do that in a remote situation. You could do that when you're back in the classroom live, you know, have that video ready to go, really get it perfect and use that as your model in the beginning of a class. But no, for the actual Quill Lessons tool, it really is designed to be done live. And Shannon, I don't know if there's any other tips you wanted to add there. Okay, we're good. But that's a really great question. Yeah, and if you want to look around on YouTube, there are some really good ones out there of teachers that have recorded themselves working through all of the instructions and modeling their responses to different activities. Okay. So last but not least, Quill Diagnostic. And this is actually the tool that we recommend starting your Quill practice with. So we have 5 diagnostic assessments, which cover basic grammar and sentence construction skills. And then they use each student's performance to determine a personalized learning plan of Quill activities. So first of all, there's a sequence of 3 diagnostics for ELA classes. We always recommend starting with the starter diagnostic for general education students. because that covers the most basic grammar concepts that are those necessary building blocks for sentence construction, for combining. We like to also start there because this way we make sure we don't gloss over any concepts that we think students might know, but maybe they don't. And then we can always move students on to an intermediate diagnostic if they do extremely well on the starter diagnostic. But again, we do recommend starting there. We also have a series of 2 diagnostics that were designed specifically for English language learners, and those come with instructions in several languages, Spanish, French, Chinese, many others. And these cover the skills that we know tend to be particularly challenging for English language learners. So articles, verb tense, subject-verb agreement, etc. And again, we do recommend that all English language learners, really whatever their level, begin with that starter diagnostic, again, to make sure that we don't gloss over anything that they might have, anywhere where they might have some gaps. We also have a great overview of these diagnostics that Shannon or Erica will send to the chat. Again, yes, a good overview of those diagnostics. I also want to flag here for our 2, I know we have those 2 AP teachers here, that we also have a brand new writing skills survey for AP that functions much like these diagnostics, specifically for AP students. And we also have a new FAQ up on the site with all the information that you would need about that survey and how to administer it, etc. So Shannon, I don't know if, you know what, I have it right here. I can just pop that in the chat myself. And this is FAQ on the writing skills survey for AP students for advanced placement. So the link is right there and it'll take you to this page. These are live links that'll take you to the actual survey and what it assesses, etc. So just wanted to highlight that for you. We're very excited to have that just launched about a month ago. Okay, so now we know about the diagnostics, but how do we assign them? I'm sure you're wondering. So let's walk you through that. So if I go to my website and I go to Assign Activities, Explore Activities, and then I have these 2 choices, assess student writing with a diagnostic or choose from a library. Right now we're going to do the diagnostic. And we again have the choices that I just showed you in that slide before, those 5 diagnostics. The AP survey doesn't show up here, but you can find it by searching in our library. And you can preview the diagnostic to see what's on there. Each diagnostic has 25 questions, so it shouldn't take your students too long. And you can look through it yourself if you want to see. It covers, again, those really basic grammar skills. And then you would select it. You have the chance to change the name. You don't have to. You can assign a due date if you would like. Again, you don't have to, but you do have that option. Students can still complete it after that due date, but it is there as a nice guideline for them for when you're looking for them to complete it. And then you're going to choose which classes you want to assign it to. So you can assign that diagnostic to all of your classes. You could assign it just to one class, and you can even assign it just to particular students. So let's say you just want to assign this to Maya and Charles. That's how you would do that. And then you're going to click Assign Pack to Classes. Success, you assigned it to one class. Next, and then you can see what you have assigned. So just to review, the way to assign a diagnostic is the Assign Activities tab, Explore, Assess with the diagnostic, and again, here's where you get to choose and put in all your information, and then assign to classes. So let us know in the Q&A if you have any questions about assigning the diagnostic or about the diagnostics themselves. We'll pause here. And thank you, Shannon, for adding. We have that link now to the overview of all 5 Quill diagnostics. Okay, so Conchetta, I see you have raised a hand. If you could click that Q&A button and type your question in, that would be great. Margaret is asking, can the teachers do the diagnostics? Great question, Margaret. So yes, you can, when we say preview, you basically can go through and do it as a student. So I'll show you that again. Assign activities, explore, assess with the diagnostics. So when you click preview, you can go ahead and complete this diagnostic just like your students would. We arrived at school before the bell rang. New Year's Day is a holiday in January. Notice, by the way, that in the diagnostic, your students do not get any feedback, and that's because it's meant to really be a baseline to see where they are. All of our other activities, they will get feedback, but except the diagnostic. Again, we're trying to get that baseline assessment, and they just get the directions, and there's these choices. The snacks are his, or theirs, actually, I should read carefully. Yes, so you can absolutely go through and complete the diagnostic. If you want to see an answer key for the diagnostic, we don't have those available on the website because we found that some students were able to find them. You know how students are very clever. But if you are interested in a answer key for the diagnostic, we can send that to you. So let us know if you are interested in that. In terms of getting the results, when you finish it, because you're practicing like a student, you will just be told that you've completed it. The students don't get any feedback on the diagnostic. You as the teacher, though, when your students complete the diagnostic, will see their scores, and we'll show you that in just a second. And let me know, Margaret, if that didn't answer your question. Okay. So if the question is about pronouns, for example, does it count punctuation errors? Alicia, I believe, okay, so Alicia is asking about how the diagnostic is scored. So for example, does it take points off for punctuation errors? Shannon, do you know much about that? I think it does account for that.
Yeah, in the diagnostic, each question is specifically paired with a concept that is being tested. So you won't see that on the diagnostic, but in a regular quill activity, punctuation and mechanics are always taken into account on whether the student gets the prompt correct or not.
Thank you. Okay. Okay, so next we want to show you how to assign diagnostic recommendations. And this is really one of the most exciting parts of Quill, is that once your students complete that diagnostic, you're going to get their results, but you're also going to get recommendations for practice based on those results. So let's take a walk through that. So I'm going to go back to my dashboard. We're going to go to Student Reports. And then we're going to choose either here, Diagnostics, or you can click this box here. So first, you're going to see your students' performance. These colors are a nice little quick way to see how your students have done. So red or pink for 59% or below, not yet proficient. Yellow for students who are in the 60 to 79% range. And green for students who are proficient, 80% or above. And it will also tell you how many students you have in each of those categories. Then you'll see each student's performance, their score. You'll also see the average score on Quill, which I always think is nice to have as a comparison piece. You can also click this little caret to see more detail about how the student performed. But what I want to show you now is the recommendations tab. This is where it gets fun. So we click this recommendations tab, and here we have independent activity recommendations based on our students' performance on the diagnostic. Anything that is in blue, this little blue square, means that this is an activity pack, and that's again a pack of activities that's recommended for that student based on their performance. So as you can see, Maya has been recommended capitalization, plural and possessive nouns, pronouns, and that's it. I'm trying to see if we have anyone who has, so all of these have been recommended and not yet assigned. And the reason I know that is because they have this little white box with a black check. That means they have been recommended, but not yet assigned. If they were assigned, I would see this green circle and check. So let's say you have a few options here, right? You can assign all of these assigned recommendations and instruct your students to work through them at their own pace. Or if you feel like that might be overwhelming for your students, I know it would probably be for mine, you can go in and select some to assign and hold off on assigning the others. So I've noticed that all my students have been assigned capitalization practice. So I'm going to go ahead and keep those. I'm going to uncheck all. I still have the blue to see my recommendations. Now I'm going to check those. I'm going to give those to everybody. And I'm going to give one more. So these also were recommended. I'll give those to those 3 students. And I'm going to stop there. one or two packs for my students at a time is good for me. And now I'm going to click Assign Activity Packs. And notice that those turn green. And that means that those activity packs have been assigned to those students. Now notice all that blue highlighting is still there. So no matter what you choose to do, those recommendations, that blue highlight will always be there when you go to this page for you to be able to assign those recommendations at a later time. That will always be there. Notice also you have this view pack option. So you can click and see the pack and also play through it as your students would. So here we have what's in the pack. We have an estimated time, that's with 10 minutes estimated per activity, what students will be doing, if there's any theme to the pack, what standards are addressed by this pack, and what concepts. So this is a really nice page to give you an overview of the pack. And again, you can also click this preview button for any of these activities and play through them as your students would. And this is also a good way to see if the level, some of you ask questions about level. This is a good way to see if the level is appropriate for your students as well.
And Sherry, there's a quick question from Melissa about, can you assign the packs to students who do not have the blue? If you wanted to show that that is possible, you just would check off that box yourself, and then you'd be able to assign it just like the others. You would just have to manually check it off.
Notice that it stays white though, so that we know that it was a recommendation that we chose as opposed to Quill assigning, but absolutely you can assign those. Great question. Okay, I think I am going to pause here for a little time for any questions about the diagnostics, getting the results of the diagnostic, or assigning those recommendations. I apologize if you can hear the crying baby in the background. Okay, let's keep going. So alternatively, if you don't want to start with assigning a diagnostic, you don't have to. You can create your own activity pack. And so the way to do that, I will show you right now. We'd go back to that Assign Activities tab, Explore Activities. And instead of a diagnostic, now we're going to choose activities from the library. And you have a few choices here. You can browse packs that are pre-made with whole class and independent practice. When we say whole class, that's referring to Quill lessons. So that means these packs will include Quill lessons as well as Quill Grammar, Quill Connect, Quill Proofreader. So that's one way to browse. You can also browse just packs with independent practice. So if this is for a remote situation and you don't feel ready to dive into a remote Quill lesson, you would go here and browse just the packs with independent practice. And then you also have the option to create your own activity pack. And I'm going to go here and show you. Now you are brought to a page that is a library of all of Quill's resources, all of Quill's activities. And you have various ways to sort through these. You can search for a particular concept. So I could search for adjectives, for example, and it will filter activities around adjectives. I can also filter by concept here and choose from pre-written concepts. So I might choose complex sentences. I can also filter by level, and here is where we have an answer to the questions about leveling activities. So all of our activities are leveled to a Common Core grade standard and grade level. So let's say I want to look at 7th grade aligned activities. This is how I would do it. And I can also then filter by type of activity. So I want a 7th grade activity in Quill Grammar, let's say, or a 7th grade activity in Quill Connect. So you can also filter here by the tool. And again, you see those icons there to guide you as well. So that puzzle piece for Quill Grammar, the apple for Quill Lessons, etc. You can see just Quill Proofreader lessons in the 7th grade level. You can also always turn this off, go back to all levels. Now you're just seeing all of our Quill Proofreader activities, which all have different content. And oh, another really useful thing, I always forget to show this, is if you hover over the name of any activity, it will give you the title of the activity, which tool it's using, what grade it's aligned to, what standards, and then what students are asked to do. So this is about a snowy ride, but the focus in terms of skills is the progressive tense. So that's really helpful to be able to hover over, and I'll show you one for Connect as well. So this is plural possessive nouns. It's aligned to a third grade standard, and it tells you that students are going to be combining sentences 10 times to practice forming plural and singular possessive nouns. So that's just a really nice way to get a little preview of what's in the activity. If you want more than that and you want to actually see the activity, you can always click and it will take you straight to the activity, and you can work through it just like your students would. And that also can help if you have concerns about the level. Sometimes people are concerned about the reading level of an activity. This is a good way to see that. Okay, and then in order to make an activity pack, we haven't actually selected anything yet. So let's say, again, I'm going to go back to I teach 7th grade, and I'm interested in some Connect activities. And I want them to focus on this after and before and maybe some of these other subordinating conjunctions. And I'm going to leave it there. Once those are checked, you're going to click Select Activities. You're going to name your pack. So I have some subordinating conjunction practice here. I have the option to assign a due date if I want to pace this out for my students. So maybe I want them to do one of these a week. And they will appear for students in the order, in the date order. And then again, I get the choice to assign it to all of my classes, some of my classes, or some of my students. So maybe I've noticed that Harper, I'm going to uncheck, Harper and William really need some work on their subordinating conjunctions. I can assign this just to them. That's how you would do that. And assign pack to classes. Click Next. If you click See What I've Assigned, it's going to take you to your My Activities page. And I just want to show you on there. Notice that on your My Activities page, you'll see everything that you've assigned. And notice for that pack, it will say Quill Classroom 2 out of 5 students. And that's how you'll know that you did not assign it to the whole class. And you can also always edit that. So if you wanted to add a student to that pack or delete a student, you can do that here as well. Okay, so that's that. And then the next thing I want to show you is back in that Assign Activities tab. And Jim, I see your question. I'm going to come to that in a second.
I'm just
Again,
typing.
Library. Go ahead, Shannon.
I'm just typing. Yeah, sorry. I'm just typing Jim a quick answer to that question, but we can revisit it once you're done.
Great. So just now before we went to this one, create your own activity pack. And that's where you have access to everything on Quill and you can make your own activity pack. If you're feeling a little tired and you want a pack that's already made for you and ready to go, I suggest using one of these. So let's click on packs with independent practice, and you'll see here, these are packs that were created by the Quill team or sometimes by teachers that have collaborated with Quill, and they are pre-made, ready to go packs. So for example, we have an appositive phrases practice pack here. You can see the activities in it. We have 5 activities here. We have the estimated time for it. We have, again, the summary of what students will be practicing, the standards, the concepts, and again, we can preview those activities. So again, these are pre-made packs if you have a particular skill that you want to have your students working on that are ready to go, and you can assign them to students. And when you assign them, again, it's the same as when you create your own pack. Select pack. Same thing, you can change the name if you want to. You also have the option of taking some of these out. So maybe you feel like this is a little too much. You want to X those out, you can do that. You can add a due date if you want. And then again, you can choose who you're assigning them to. And again, as always, you can choose to assign them to just a particular group of students. Maybe you want to put here a positives practice. This is your group A. Maybe you have a different pack for group B. Etc., and then you assign them to that class. So you do also have that option to use those featured activity packs. Okay.
Vacation.
Shannon, you cut out in the beginning. Just repeat that one more time.
I'm so sorry. Can I jump in with one
Of
clarification
course.
based off of a question? So Margaret asked about, she saw that in one of the featured activity packs, it was saying that activities are 60 minutes. Margaret, just want to clarify that that's the time for the entire activity pack. Each activity within the pack should take students about 10 minutes. We usually say 10 to 15 minutes per activity, but students can save their work and go back to it in any activity. So there's always a button on the top of the activity that says save and exit. So if a student say it just is taking them a lot of time or they need to move on to something else, Sherry's showing it right there, they would just click that. And then the next time the student enters the activity from their dashboard, they'll get a resume button. They'll click resume and they'll go right back to where they had left off.
Thank you so much, Shannon. And Margaret, before we end today, we are going to show you, and I just realized we're running out of time, but we are going to show you the student dashboard. Okay, so let's just finish this up so we have a minute or two for any questions left over. Okay. And here's where I want to show you that you can, oh, I actually showed you this already. This was about targeting for small groups. So I've shown you throughout, whenever I was assigning, whether it was a diagnostic, whether it was an activity pack I created, whether it was a featured activity pack, any of those packs, you can always assign to just a particular group of students if you want to target them for individual remediation or even for stretch materials, give them something more challenging. You can always do that with Quill packs. And at this point, we are here. I'm going to take you to the Quill student demo account. So you can see what Quill looks like for your students. I know teachers are often curious, what are my students seeing? So when your students log in, this is Maya Angelou's account. This is what she'll see. If she was part of more than one Quill classroom, she would have another one of these. And she's going to click into that classroom, and she's going to be brought to this page where she sees all her activities. She can then filter by her to-do activities she has not started yet. And she has the button here to start and also a little icon for which tool. She'll also see a due date there if you have given her one. Let's see if this one does have a due date. And then she can also see her completed activities and how she performed on them. And we do give a proficiency rating. We don't give an actual number to really encourage students to focus on getting to that proficient level. A lot of our teachers will tell students to go for green. And what that means is that if they don't have green in their box here, they can replay an activity and do better on it. And that is one of the really wonderful things about all of Quill's activities is they can be replayed as many times as your students want for that higher score. Teachers will often say, I'm not going to enter that in my grade book until this date, replay it, and I'll give you the higher score as a way to motivate students. So you can see that there. Notice that the diagnostic has this blue color and says unscored. We don't share the diagnostic score with students. Again, we want them to focus really on improving, not so much on that number, but you do have access to their score in your dashboard. Trying to think if there's anything else I wanted to show here. I think that's pretty much it. And we are almost out of time. And we made it to our Q&A. So we have 3 minutes. I hope we were able to answer your questions during, but if there are any lingering questions, please let us know. And Shannon, anything that you've been holding on to?
Yes, there has been. So there was a question earlier about when we were looking at proofreader, and the question was a really great one about whether if a student gets a 100% on the proofreader activity, will they still be sent into the grammar practice module? Right. And we just wanted to play through that to make 100% sure we were correct with our answer. And Erica thankfully played through an exercise. And so the answer is no. If a student gets a 100% on a proofreader exercise, they will not get sent into the grammar practice. They will just get their excellent score, and then they can move on to a new activity.
And celebrate. Any other remaining questions? And Margaret, you found this helpful. I'm so glad. And please feel free to, I'm going to go back to actually this page. Let's see.
And Sherry, one more question came in that I can answer really quickly. Yeah. Jim is asking about the difference between free and premium Quill. So Quill Premium is free until the end of July 2020, but the free version of Quill gives you access to everything that we just showed you. You get access to create all of your classes. You have access to the full Quill activity library, and you can assign any number of activities. And you get access to the first 3 data reports. With Quill Premium, you get additional access to additional data reports that Sherry is showing now, which have those gold stars. And you also can get potential access to professional development. But your free account gets you everything else that we showed you today. And so
Thank you.
Quill itself is always free, but Quill Premium is free until the end of July.
Okay. And then lastly, please keep in mind there are lots of ways to reach us if you have any further questions or need any help with anything. We have those drop-in Q&As on Mondays, Tuesdays, and Thursdays from 12 to 1 Eastern Time. You can use that intercom button at the bottom right corner of your screen in intercom. You can also email support@Quill.org. And lastly, please do use our hashtag Quill in the Classroom. We would love to see what you are doing with Quill. And that brings us to the end of our presentation today. Thank you so much, everyone, and have a wonderful Monday.
Bye, everyone.
Bye-bye.